All right. So let me tell you the story of how I had to steal a classic 1972 Volkswagen Beetle in order to graduate college. All right. Before I start telling you the story, first I need you to understand the stakes, because the stakes were super, super high. That explains why someone like me would steal a car, all right? So here's what was happening. I was living in a dictatorship, and the dictator was crazy, and everybody was convinced that one morning we were gonna wake up and the country would have been closed down overnight. Like, they were gonna shut down the airports, close the borders, take our passports, and we were gonna be trapped there forever. I didn't want that to happen to me. And all I wanted was to get my diploma so that I could leave before that happened. This is why I was very happy that it was my last year of college. It was my last year. I was right there, the goal, I could see the goal from where I was standing. So the only thing I needed to graduate was to finish one last big project. They had divided us into groups of 12 people. And each group had to make a short film from beginning to end. So we had to write the script, shoot the film, edit it, do the post-production, and a release party. And once I had my project done, I would have my diploma, and then I could leave. Fantastic. Everybody else, all the other groups, chose a very simple idea, something with a single location that they could shoot in their living room, but not me. I wanted to be Michel Gondry. I wanted to be a director, and I had a really bright idea for this project, you see. I had written a short story a couple of years before, and it had won a little tiny literary award, but I was proud of it, and I wanted to turn it into a film, you see? The story was about a guy and his Volkswagen Beetle, and one of the most important scenes happened at a dealership. So it was a pretty ambitious idea, considering I did not have a Volkswagen Beetle, and I didn't have a dealership to shoot in. But you know what I did have? I had a very big, sizable ego, tons of moxie and bravado. So I managed to convince all the other 11 idiots in my group to choose my project and name me director. And so there I was, about to direct my first film. And this is what I needed to find. I needed to find a car like this. This is a classic Beetle. It's pretty difficult to find because it's from the 70s. So finding one in working order was not easy. And I also wanted it in orange, okay? So anyway, I started gathering everything that I needed, figuring that, the universe was going to provide me with a Volkswagen Beetle for my project. I just needed to get everything working, everything going, and things would just work out for me. So we needed many, many things. First of all, I was broke as a joke, and I didn't have a computer that could handle editing something like this. So I had to talk to one of the members of the team to lend me her MacBook Pro and a hard drive that I could edit this in. I had to find people to work in this project for free, okay? I needed someone to handle the camera. I needed professional equipment. I needed a gaffer, somebody that could handle the lighting, because we had no skills and no experience and absolutely no common sense. But believe it or not, moxie is something that will take you very far. Somebody who has a very inflated ego and no sense of shame can pull a lot of strings, believe it or not, because people think, well, if this person is so confident, there must be something there. There must be a reason, right? They must know what they're doing. No. So I don't know how, but I managed to get people to actually take my project seriously, even though I was not going to be able to pay them a single dime or give them any other form of compensation. I couldn't even promise them like exposure, right? What exposure? It was a college project. But anyway, I managed to get all of my ducks All of my ducks lined up, everything in order, and we started shooting for this project. We were making strides. Everything was going out according to plan. Everything was advancing. We were doing a pretty good job. But then, one day, we woke up, and suddenly the laws had changed. They hadn't closed down the country, thank God. But the dictator decided that not a single soul was going to graduate college that year unless we did 400 hours of social work. 400 hours. When somebody commits a felony and it's not bad enough that they have to go to jail, so they make them do social work instead. Like they put them orange jumpsuits and they have them pick up garbage at a park or something. Yeah, it was this, but applied at a global scale. Every college student, now a felon. Yeah, and what was worse was, because this was a measure that was taken overnight, the infrastructure wasn't there to absorb all the people. So they had every student come up with a project themselves. You had to write down a project, present it to an institution, get it approved, and then use 400 hours of your time to make the project happen. Or you wouldn't be able to graduate. There goes your diploma. Bye-bye, diploma. Yeah. And most students just try to do something easy, something around their block, like, I don't know, cleaning up desks at a library or something, but not me. You see, if I was going to do social work, I was going to be the best social worker the world had ever seen. I was going to be Michelle Pfeiffer in Dangerous Minds. I was going to go right into the favela, into the heart of poverty, to the least privileged children I could find, and I was going to show them how to do creative writing. It was a completely out of touch program. We're talking about talking to children who don't have food and trying to teach them like storytelling techniques. I don't know what I was thinking, but I went to all the public schools that I could until I found one that approved my program. And there I went, So now I had to split my time in between going to school, finishing my film, and doing 400 hours of social work as Michelle Pfeiffer. For a moment there, after they approved my program, I saw a glimpse of all of the possibilities. The future was pregnant with possibilities. I was going to work on my film in the mornings and go teach unprivileged children in the afternoon. I was going to turn everything in on time, and I would ace it all, and I would graduate and leave the country. It sounded like a perfect plan. But boy, was I in for a sobering realization. Things were not going to work out the way I thought they would. Because I started working at the school, and everything was way more dangerous than I originally thought. They had many, many problems. A shocker, I know. These were kids whose parents were often gang members. They were used to seeing a lot of violence and shootings every night, and some of these parents even used their kids as drug mules. The kids, like 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, very small children would be like used to pass drugs from one favela to another. Just crazy, crazy stuff. I was teaching 12-year-olds, and in my class, everybody kind of behaved. I was very impressed that they would behave coming from such circumstances, except for one kid. His name was Jefferson. Jefferson Ramirez, all right? Because in favelas in Venezuela, they name their children after American patriots, of course. So Jefferson was a problem child. And I didn't know this at the time, but he was going to play a key role in me being able to graduate college. I just didn't know it yet. Right? All I saw in him was a problem child because he would bully other kids. He was once caught with a knife in school. He would play with, he had a lighter, and he would be playing with the lighter on and off next to the curtains, and he would refuse to stop doing that. Just problems. So imagine my surprise when I gave them their first assignment. They had to write the outline of a story in a 3-act structure. And Jefferson brought a brilliant outline. Brilliant outline. It was everything I wanted, everything I was expecting. It was built in 3 acts. It was about the favela, like the things he saw every day. And when he read it aloud, the other children started laughing because he was kind of the class clown. But as he continued, they started to quiet down and listen. And I thought, oh my God, this child has a secret talent, and it is my brilliance. It is me who is pulling this brilliance out of this child. I need to talk to his parents. So I got the school to call his parents in so that I could talk to them and tell them how brilliant his child was. The problem was Jefferson had no parents because, sadly, his father was a gang member and he got shot, and his mother abandoned him. So he had been raised by his uncle. So it was his uncle, the one who came to the interview. And I talked to his uncle and I showed him the outline. And I said, you know what? I think your child has a talent. I am very proud of Jefferson. I think that you should encourage him to write more and read more. If you want, I can show you a few books that he's going to love. If he likes writing, he's probably going to love reading. And the uncle laughed. He laughed. Do you want to know why? Because the outline was just a copy of the plot of a biopic about a rapper, a Venezuelan rapper. The child, Jefferson, had just copied the plot of a biopic about a rapper, a Venezuelan rapper, and that's what he turned in. That's why the children were laughing, all right? It wasn't him. The 3-act structure didn't come from his head. It came from the head of the privileged kids who were writing the biopic. He copied it from. That didn't sit very well with me. But the uncle told me, because I had been asking about a Volkswagen Beetle around, he told me that he knew somebody who owned an orange Volkswagen Beetle. An orange Volkswagen Beetle. And if I didn't hold this against Jefferson and I didn't give him a bad grade, he would put me into contact with him. And, you know, the joke was on Jefferson's uncle because my class was just social work. It had no grades. I had no power here. I couldn't give the child a bad grade. I didn't have that power. So, but he didn't know that. So I told him, don't worry. He's going to ace my class. Just please, take me to this person with an orange Volkswagen. And he did. There was a guy in the favela who had a pretty big garage, and he had a bunch of cars. And among those cars, there it was, an orange Volkswagen Beetle. All I wanted. It was old. It wasn't in perfect shape, but it was completely perfect for my film. And I talked to the owner of the shop, and he was happy to help me for a fee. So I didn't have a very big budget for the short film. Like I said, I was broke as a joke. Most people in the group did not want to spend a dime on this. But I did have a small amount of money that I had managed to gather for the project, and I used it all in paying this man for the Volkswagen Beetle. So we agreed on doing half of this upfront and half of it by the end of it. And the only thing was that he was not willing to leave us with the key, because he said this was a very old car and it had like a trick. Like you couldn't just open it and the ignition was weird. So he was gonna send me one of his handyman with the key to help us with the car. So we agreed that that's what we were gonna do. And I gave him half of the money up front, right? Fantastic. I was so happy. I thought that this was like the universe knocking on my door and telling me, yes, this is the life that you deserve. You deserve to be a famous director, and I am going to push you along the way. I'm going to be the wind on your sails. Okay, so I called my team to tell them about this, and you will not believe what they told me. Somebody on the team had finally managed to find a car dealership. Yes, they were willing to let us film in the car dealership, provided that we used we went there like the Saturday after they closed down to set everything up, and then we could film half a day in the morning on Sunday. Oh my God. Oh my God. It was like the stars aligned, like the planets in the sky, like everything was just falling into place. All the traffic lights were green for me. I was like driving and like the breeze in my hair and like everything was working out. I couldn't believe it. So I am thinking, you know what? Something is not going to work out. I mean, this has to fail somehow because this is too perfect. This is going too well. I am suspicious. But no, on Saturday afternoon, everybody was at the dealership at the right moment. Everybody was punctually there. The dealership owner was there, allowing us to come on in. The equipment was there. The actors were there to rehearse. I had used some friends as actors. They were not actors, but but they were willing. They had a very particular, look, and they agreed to do this for me. And I had everything was there, even the Volkswagen and the handyman with the key. I thought this is going to be a problem. I'm probably going to have to push these people a little bit to get them to come at the right time and everything, because people are not very punctual in Venezuela. But no, he was there on time. Everything was working out. I was like, oh my God, is this a gift from heaven? Everything seemed to be perfect, just perfect. And we were going to shoot the next day. And so that night I went to bed with dreams of me receiving the Oscar. I thought that this was going to be, this was going to be my moment. This was my big breakthrough. And so the following morning, I made sure that all the batteries were charged, that we had the chargers, that everything was in place. And I went to the set and everybody was there, except for the handyman with the key. Yeah, there were about 30 people in there. All the team members, the professional crew that were working for me for free, the actors, the dealership owner. We even had a huge table for catering, full of homemade things, because we didn't have money to get anybody to cook anything professionally. So everybody got their moms to make sandwiches. But the table was there and the coolers were there with beverages and food, everything, the whole production, lights, camera, action, everything, except for the man with the key. Time went on, and this man was not showing up. I called the shop owner, and he was not answering his phone. I called the handyman, and he wasn't answering his phone. So I called Jefferson's uncle. I called his uncle, and I told him if he didn't get me that Volkswagen key, I was going to get Jefferson expelled from school. So he couldn't really get a hold of either the owner of the Volkswagen or the handyman, but he showed up at the dealership too with Jefferson. And that's when this entire thing got completely out of hand. I was no longer in charge, you see. Things started to just happen, and I went from being the director into being just a speechless spectator of the insanity that was happening around me. All of these people who thought that they were going to get trapped in a communist country with no escape started to lose their minds when they realized that this film was not going to be possible, okay? They all started to lose their minds collectively. So, the first one was Jefferson. Jefferson decided, with the approval of his uncle, that he was going to hotwire the car. He didn't know exactly how to do it, but I think he had seen other people do it. So, and he was 12, okay? He was 12. But right there, under the guidance of his uncle, my face agape, this child started to hotwire the Volkswagen Beetle. It took him about an hour, but he managed to open the door. And then, an hour later, he managed to start the car. He managed to start the car. I was looking in awe. Like, the owner of the dealership was looking in awe. I was looking in awe. I think we were breaking the law here. But nobody was going to tell. Nobody was going to tell because we were, hostages, communism. So finally, the car has started. Domingo, get into the car. We're going to shoot this no matter what. And the guy gets into the car and we're getting everything ready, the cameras, everything, the lighting. And that's the moment. That is the moment when Domingo, the actor, tells me, "But I don't know how to drive stick." What? Yes, I don't know how to drive stick. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? You don't know how to drive stick? You didn't think this was important information? We have been rehearsing this for weeks. You knew you were going to have to drive a Volkswagen Beetle. It didn't occur to you to tell me that you didn't know how to drive stick? I was losing my mind. I was losing my mind. And so was everybody else. And you know who solved this? It was the gaffer, you see. The gaffer was not only there for free for some reason, but apparently he was enjoying the whole show. He was enjoying the spectacle. He wanted to be useful for real. Because he was like, okay, calm the fuck down. Anybody knows how to drive stick here? And then a guy was like timidly like, I do. So he was like, get in the car. He made this guy lay on top of Domingo's lap, like horizontally on the front seats. And his job was going to be to push the pedals with his hands while ducking so that like he was out of frame so the camera couldn't see him. And all Domingo needed to do was steer the wheel. Steer the wheel. Together, working as a team, they were going to be able to take off, like to take the car out of the dealership. The problem was, this was a very busy junction, okay? This was a very busy junction. The dealership was here, there was a street here, cars were coming in every direction, there was an island in the middle, and there was traffic lights, okay? So this was a risky proposition. But this was the moment that everything was taken out of my hands. I went from being the director of this thing to being just a terrified witness of the whole situation. Like everybody just, they all sprung to life. They understood for a brief moment that it was now or never. So Domingo was like grabbing the wheel with a terrified look on his face. He had I chose him because he had such a particular look. He had aviator glasses, right? Huge aviator eyeglasses, like crystal, like transparent, right? And he had the nerdiest face. And he had a face like, he was terrified for his life. The other guy was laying across the front seats, but he couldn't touch the ignition. There were wires coming out of the ignition, and he had to be very careful not to bump them because nobody knew what could happen. So his legs didn't fit the co-pilot seat. So half the way, he decided to poke his both legs out the co-pilot window. So you saw... Oh my God, I'm drooling now. So all you saw from behind was a Volkswagen Beetle with feet coming out of the window and a terrified man. And then all of the rest of the people in the crew, they went ahead and they decided they were going to block traffic. They were just going to block traffic. And I was like this. I was like, I think we're breaking like 50 laws. I think we're breaking 50 laws. They did basically like a very big conga line of them like blocking the traffic while this guy who was terrified and the other guy with the feet and the cameraman and the gaffer and everybody managed to get this car out of the dealership. Holy shit. And all I could do was like I was perplexed. Like I couldn't believe what was happening. I couldn't believe what was happening. The stolen car, the guy with the feet, everything. Oh my God. And then, so we got the scenes. We got the scenes. Incredibly, but we did. We got the scenes. After shooting the scene, we couldn't just park the car at the dealership because they had to open the following day and like work, right? So we couldn't just leave an old Volkswagen Beetle sitting there. And we also couldn't bring it back to the shop because the owner wasn't there and the handyman wasn't there either, and we had hotwired this car. So I managed to get it to a square that was close to the shop and shut it down there. Jefferson did it for me. Jefferson and his uncle did it for me. So after leaving the car parked there and writing text messages to the owner telling him where the car was, I went to my house and I was reviewing all of the footage from the days before, and I realized that I had something really, really good. It was beautiful, interesting. The vibe was just perfect, and I was very excited to get to edit this wonderful short film. It was going to be really good. Everything seemed like it was going to be great. But it wasn't, you see, because the following day, when I went to do social service at the school, the owner of the car and the handyman were waiting for me. And they were not very happy, you see. They were not very happy. Not only were they demanding that I pay them the other half that we agreed on, they wanted more money because they said I had stolen the car. You see, because I had hotwired a car. They said that I had stolen the car, that I had damaged the car, and they were demanding more money from me. But I was broke as a joke. But these were favela people. Like, I was scared for my life. I didn't know if I was going to leave the favela alive that day. But I had to refuse to pay them because I didn't have the money. So I told them, well, I don't know. I don't have the money. I don't know what we can do about this. So, very upset, they told me that I was going to regret it. For a little while, I thought this was like a threat of physical violence, and I was going to quit like social services and start looking for something else. But I didn't have to, because that afternoon, the principal of the school told me that she was shutting down my project. So I had just lost 300 hours of social service like that. I had the footage, but I didn't have the social service. I was not going to be able to graduate if I didn't find a workaround for this. But that wasn't the end of it. That wasn't the end of my misery, because that afternoon, I went to my friend's house to start editing the film. And I edited it, and I spent pretty much the whole week pulling all-nighters, editing this thing. And it was beautiful. It was wonderful. I mean, it was chef's kiss. It was a beautiful short film. But at one point, because I had no skill and no experience, I didn't do a backup. And the girl that was working as director's assistant, my secretary, loved to wear high heels. And because she was also pulling all-nighters, she tripped. She tripped on the hard drive cord, unplugging the hard drive from the wall and frying it in the process. I lost all of the footage, the entire project. I just couldn't believe it. Everything got lost. There was nothing left. I wasn't smart enough to make a backup. I didn't know that I had to do a backup. We took the hard drive to the Genius Bar, hoping that maybe somebody there was genius enough to recover the files. Yeah, they couldn't. So now I had no social service. I had no short film to turn in. I didn't even know if I could go anywhere near the favela again, because the guy from the shop was probably wanted to murder me. And it seemed like I was going to be trapped forever in communism. Yeah. Yeah, we were pretty desperate, and I called everybody. I called the actors to tell them the news. I talked to the teacher. I talked to everybody. I called everyone. And eventually, the cameraman told me that maybe he could go and ask to get the tapes back, because I didn't know this, but he had been shooting this in film. So he had digitalized the film into the clips that I got from him. And he said that maybe he could get the film digitalized again. And he did. Thank God. God bless him. The only problem is I had no audio. All I had was the video. There was no audio. We were recording the audio separately. And the audio was gone. So now we had a silent movie. Now we had a silent short film. And we had to spend weeks doing with like coconuts, chopsticks, and like sandpaper, like faking like the sounds, dubbing the movie, okay? We dubbed the movie, and we did sound effects for the entire stupid short film. So we managed to turn something in. I obviously didn't become Michel Gondry, that's for sure. And the way I solved the problem of this social services was I talked to the guy from the library from my college, and I think he forged something. He talked to the principal at the public school and got her to grant me the 300 hours I had already done. So all I had to do was 100 more hours at the library. And I think he pulled some sort of weird forgery thing, and he managed to get me my 400 hours approved so that I could graduate. So luckily for me, I graduated. I didn't become Michelle Pfeiffer. I wasn't Michel Gondry either, you know. Michelle. But I was me, and I survived. And every time I see a Volkswagen Beetle now, I gag a little inside my mouth. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed my crazy story. And if you had a good time, make sure to subscribe. My channel is tiny so far. We're like 5 people and a dog. But I have chutzpah, I have moxie. I'm going to make this one work. And if you want me to send you an email every time I upload a new video, you can enter your email in my box over here. I normally tell you to do this because I don't really trust the algorithm much. Every time I subscribe to someone, I never see them again. It's just the algorithm thinks he knows better than me what I want to watch, and whenever somebody I'm subscribed to uploads something, I never know. It never tells me. So in order to skip that and make sure that you actually get what you subscribe to, you can do that, and I'll send you an email every time I upload something new. That way, you'll know. And it'll be up to you to choose whether or not you want to watch it. So anyway, I hope you had a good time, and I'll see you soon. Mwah.